friendship that'll never ever end.
Run!
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Reaction Beanie Yo for 183. That in that neighborhood. My brothers and sisters, I have been waiting over 2 weeks for this man to put out a video, and he has finally done it. And that man is none other than Lazy Masquerade. Back to the Lazy Man, y'all. Hope y'all doing excelente out there today. And I'm glad that you came on back to the channel once again to fuck with the bean. And the title of the video is Disturbing Things I Found on the Internet, Volume 9. Now, I love when the Lazy Man do the disturbing things I found on the internet series, y'all, because he remind me of Mr. Ballin', because y'all know how Mr. Ballin' be coming up with them stories, and you be like, Mr. Ballin', where in the freak you even get this crazy ish from? You know what I'm saying? And freaking the Lazy Man is the same way with these disturbing things that he found on the internet. You be like, what on the internet is that? You know what I'm saying, man? So I'm just ready to get into it, man. I'm really excited to get into this one. But before we get into it, my brothers and sisters, y'all know what y'all got to do. Get whatever you may need. Get what you need, please. We back to the Lazy Masquerade. Y'all got what y'all need. Y'all ready to go? Then let's go. The Lazy.
Managing finances can be a real headache. Just the other day, I realized
Lazy Man with his commercials, y'all. And it's so funny. Look at the Lazy Man. It's so funny, y'all, that this the only time that he ever show his face is like doing his commercials. I don't know why I find that like funny. But shout out to the Lazy Man. Shout out to the Lazy freaking man. Let's go back right here and let's do it.
money.com/lazymasquerade to get started for free.
The Lazy.
I'm sure for many of you, video games were a big part of your childhood. And I bet you can remember one or two old school classics that got you hooked on the medium.
Yeah.
I grew up in the 90s playing Super Mario 64 and Crash Bandicoot from the comfort of my own home, and occasionally still boot up the old consoles for a nostalgic night in with the boys. But if you were young in the mid-1980s, you'd likely have spent more time playing games in the arcade. Retro classics like Pac-Man, Double Dragon, Donkey Kong, and who could forget 1985's Bally Senti Minigolf. I appreciate it's a bit of a deep cut, but allow me to set the scene. You're in a dark, empty arcade, staring into a bright, pixelated screen. And while rummaging through your pocket for a few coins, you see this.
What the freak? I did not know that showed up doing like on arcade games like missing people reports. Is that like a one thing that just randomly happened, or is that like commonplace? Because if it is, I never heard of it. But I didn't grow up in the 80s, y'all. Yes, most kids, teenagers in the 80s, they was in the arcade way more than my generation was that grew up in the 90s. You know what I'm saying? We was more, it was still, arcades was still out here like a motherfucker back then, but it had started to transition to console gaming. I was a huge Super Nintendo 64, or Sega Genesis. You know what I'm saying? That was my era. But wow, dude, they had missing people reports showing up on the arcade machines. You learn something new every day.
Following the example of milk cartons and PSAs, in the 1980s, the faces of missing children sometimes appeared on arcade machines.
Wow.
The two most famous examples are these boys, Taj Allen Merriman and Stephen Philip Curtis, who both featured on Bollicenti Minigolf. Their faces would appear as the machine cycled through different displays, from the title screen, to gameplay footage, to the high scores, and then, almost like a jump scare, to this. Though it does look like something ripped from an analog horror series, I can assure you that this static screen really was used, and the youths shown really had gone missing. Due to the digitization, the faces have an almost uncanny quality to them. That, and the sheer unexpectedness of seeing a missing persons poster pop up on your arcade machine, was enough to burn these photos into many developing brains. After all, the vast majority of people who came across these images were kids themselves. Over on the Atari Age forum, user Thunderfist was able to shed some light on what became of one of these boys. Years ago, I remember seeing a mini-golf arcade game in a gas station near me. I wasn't able to play it, but I remember watching the demo and seeing the screen with two missing boys pop up. That was the only time I'd seen that done in an arcade game, although I have read suggestions that other Bollicenti games, perhaps Give Me a Break being one of them, also did this. I always wondered what became of the two boys in minigolf, and decided to look into their cases. Downloading and playing set 2 of minigolf in MAME, I took a screenshot of that particular screen and took down the information on the two boys. Taj Allen Merriman's fate was easily found. It seems his was a family abduction, and he was found safe around July 12, 1985 in Georgia. That was the date the mother was arrested for the abduction, according to the Beaver County Times. I haven't been able to find anything on the other boy though.
I just got a feeling this is finna get a lot more crazy, y'all. Like, we at that tipping point where the lazy man finna just blow our freaking minds.
Searching through old online resources, it does seem that Taj was found. But, as Thunderfist stated in his post, there's no information online about Stephen. Several other forum users were able to locate a Stephen P. Curtis, living close to Hoquiam, where the poster said he had last been seen, but that finding's far from official. It's not like Stephen Curtis is a particularly unique name after all. As far as I'm concerned, Stephen's whereabouts and well-being remain inconclusive. Taj and Stephen weren't the only lost children to appear in these chilling arcade ads though. Other grainy faces that appeared on Bollicenti cabinets included Melinda Marie Smith, April Rose Yates, Daniel Godfrey Owens, Charles Brandon Morris, and likely numerous others that haven't been brought up on the internet yet. And of all of them, Taj is the only one confirmed to have been found.
Wow.
The implementation of these digitized photos was an experiment by Senti Technologies to see whether such a strategy could aid police investigations. But, as you've heard, the experiment's success was limited, and the practice didn't last. Fellow YouTuber Pixels After Dark was able to find a playable ROM of the minigolf arcade game online and demonstrated how the feature worked. The faces of these lost sprogs didn't appear by default, but on the dip switch menu, the machine's owner would have been able to activate the Display Kids option and could manually choose to mark them as located or not. Eerily, as far as we know, that located feature was only ever used for one of the missing youngsters, Taj. As for the others, well, in Pixels After Dark's words, we can only hope that they got the good ending too.
Yeah.
Many of these old Bollicenti arcade cabinets still exist today, in private collections, vintage bars, and retro arcades, and in their code hide the relics of a failed experiment. The only known photos of lost children, immortalized in a video game. Their faces frozen in time. Their fates a mystery. Their stories untold.
Like I said, boy, you learn something new every day. And just the craziest thing about that one from me is the fact that none of the other freaking kids was ever confirmed to be found, man. We don't know if they're alive or dead. You know what I'm saying? Like, did any of them ever pop up later on in life and like, I was the little girl, or I was the little boy on the arcade machines back in the day, I'm still doing good? Like, you would feel like at least one of them would pop up and show themselves at one point in time. Like, like I said, man, I ain't even know nothing about that whole showing missing kids on the arcade machines. And I do think it was a smart idea, because you playing a video game and then that picture pop up of two kids' faces, you gonna remember their faces. You know what I'm saying? It was a great way to kind of like put it in your brain that these are the two kids missing. So if you ever see them out anywhere, it gonna click like you the same child that I seen on the freaking video game at the arcade when I was playing freaking Pac-Man Mortal Kombat. You know what I'm saying? But it just sucks that we don't know what happened to none of those other kids. Let's go.
Depending on how you look at it, social media could be considered a blessing or a curse. Though most of us use it to connect with others, share information, and generally kill a few spare minutes, not everyone engages with it that way. For the lonely, it's a call to comfort. For the terminally online, an addiction. And for the most depraved among us, a hunting ground. Over 2 months in 2017, 8 women aged between 15 and 26 disappeared from various prefectures in and around Tokyo, Japan. And they all had something in common. Before vanishing, they'd all been in contact with a mysterious Twitter account, one ominously named Hanging Pro.
Here we go with another story I done heard from somewhere, y'all. I don't know what channel, and I know it clicked with y'all as soon as y'all seen that freaking picture. I can't remember the story. It done been a long time ago, but I remember that picture and I remember that name, Hanging Pro. Let's go.
Unbeknownst to his friends and neighbors, Takahiro Shiraishi wasn't the polite, gentle, and docile young man that he portrayed himself to be. Though outwardly he acted the right way, said the right things, and stayed out of trouble, in reality, he was a hollow shell of a human being, one incapable of empathy. He had friends, he tried hard at school, he played sports and indulged in hobbies, but there was nothing that truly interested him. Well, aside from one thing. At some point in his youth, he had developed a morbid fascination with ropes. His sister had once walked into his bedroom when they were young and found Takahiro and a friend playing the choking game, tugging on makeshift nooses that they had wrapped around each other's necks till they were blue in the face. It was an interest that he had carried with him into adulthood. An average student with average grades, Takahiro would go on to graduate from high school, but opted not to enroll at university. Instead, he relocated to Tokyo and got a job in Shinjuku's Kabukicho, a seedy entertainment district notorious for its red lights. His job there was simple: to lure attractive young women into certain bars and convince them to become escorts. It was a job that required charm rather than brainpower. But there was just one problem with that. Takahiro was scared of women. Their mere presence made him sweat and stutter. As such, he found a workaround. Rather than approaching women face to face like most scouts, he instead scoured social media for the beautiful unemployed and told them how much money they could make doing so-called night work. It was a strategy that proved surprisingly effective. Even among the other workers in Kabukicho though, Takahiro had developed a reputation and earned himself the nickname, the Creepy Scout. But they didn't just call him creepy because of how he talked or the way he acted, but also because of his eyes. More specifically, because of his vacant, lifeless stare. Those who spoke with him said that whenever they looked into Takahiro's eyes, it was like he wasn't there.
Yeah, it do look like he not there. Like, it look like he has nothing on his mind. It almost look like he a freaking mannequin or a freaking, he dead or something. I don't know, y'all. Like, his stare looks lifeless. Like, there is no life, there's no care, there's no nothing. Ah, that is freaking crazy. That is freaking freaky.
Well, everyone soon learned that Takehiro's eyes weren't the creepiest thing about him. His chat history confirmed that he had been trying to lure high schoolers into becoming escorts. People began posting his picture online, along with the caption, "Watch out for this guy," which in turn led to Takahiro being arrested and given a 14-month suspended sentence in 2017. Now jobless, Takahiro relocated to nearby Zama, where he rented a squalid one-room apartment for $250 a month. Broke, loveless and isolated, he chose not to seek out new employment. Instead, he continued to spend most of his time online, scouting out young women. This time, for an altogether different purpose. Using a myriad of Twitter accounts, including the aforementioned Hanging Pro, Takehiro targeted young, lonely females that he came across on the internet, sometimes posing as a guru skilled at helping other people end their own existence, other times playing the part of a miserable man looking for someone to end himself with. His goal, at first, was to find a sugar mama, someone who could not only satisfy him carnally, but who could support him financially. And given how useless he was at talking with women, he figured that he'd try and play the game of love on easy mode. And by manipulating the lonely, he figured he'd stand a better chance at winning. The first person to agree to meet with Takehiro was 21-year-old Mizuki Miura, a company employee from Atsugi. The pair met in person several times to discuss their mutual unhappiness. According to their chat history, Takehiro offered to let Mizuki live with him in exchange for a 500,000 yen down payment on rent. She accepted and moved in with him that August. To begin with, their cohabitation went smoothly. But when Mizuki began getting close to another guy named Shogo Nishinaka, she suddenly disappeared and became unreachable by both phone and social media.
Yakamoto didn't like that shit, but it's just crazy that they moved in. Well, she moved in with him that fast, man. You don't just be moving in with people that you barely even freaking know. You know what I'm saying, man?
Same evening that Mizuki sent her final ever message, an anonymous post appeared on the message board, 2chan. Urgent. How to get rid of 50 kilograms of meat. Due to circumstances, I've got 50 kilograms of meat. But what can I do to get rid of it? I'm not a big meat eater, so I want to dispose of it as soon as possible. After not hearing from Mizuki in 5 days, her new male friend, Shogo, went to Takehiro's apartment looking for her. And, after stepping inside, he too was never heard from again. Jealous that Mizuki was falling for this Shogo guy, Takehiro confronted her on August 23rd. When Mizuki said that she didn't have any romantic feelings for Takehiro and that she saw him as more of a friend, the incel snapped. In a blind rage, he incapacitated her, SA'd her, and, not wanting her to go to the authorities, strangled the life out of her. And when Shogo came sniffing around, he butchered him. It was too late to turn back now, and so Takehiro decided that if women wouldn't give him what he wanted, he'd take it. On the same Twitter accounts, Takehiro used carefully thought out hashtags to fish for potential targets, preying on the desperate and downtrodden. And given how many people in Japan are overworked and isolated, it wasn't long before he started getting bites. His Twitter bio read, "I want to help people who are really in pain. Please DM me anytime." Through those DMs, Takehiro would build a rapport with those who contacted him. He would slowly break them down and earn their trust by promising to end his own existence alongside them. He'd also tell them not to discuss their private chats with anyone, of course. That was a deal breaker. Numerous other people are known to have vanished after agreeing to meet with Takehiro. Kureha Ishihara, a high school freshman. Natsumi Kubo, a senior. Hinako Sarashina, a university student. Kazumi Maruyama, a convenience store worker. Akari Suda, a prospective manga artist. And Totomi Fujima, a mother and housewife.
It's just so sad, man, that these women got caught up. But then most of them were still teenagers, except for 2 of them. I think one of them was 25 and the other one was 26. But they still was very young women. But it's just so sad how this dude was taking advantage and manipulating them through the freaking internet. You know what I'm saying? They never even met him in person, but they believed his word so much and trusted him that he won't do nothing crazy to them. And then when they get over there, he freaking killing them. It is just like, man, then... It's like after his first victim, I can't remember her name right now, but the very first one, and then her boyfriend came over, and after that, he was just on a killing spree. Now, I'm just gonna kill. I remember this freaking story so much, and I think it came from Mike from that chapter that we watched it from, but the lazy man telling it in such a different way. Let's go.
After luring his victims back to his house of horrors, Takehiro would tranquilize them, rob them, essay them, and snuff them out using a piece of rope. Many woke up and tried to fight back, but were ultimately unable to overpower him. He dragged each of their bodies into his bathroom, where he sliced them into pieces using kitchen blades, a handsaw, woodwork tools, and a pair of scissors.
I don't remember all that from Mike video, y'all. I don't remember that detail. Jesus Christ, this man, not only is he killing them, he freaking like mutilating them. Like, not only after he end their life, he still wanna do terrible things to their deceased body. Wow.
Most of their meat, as he called it, was hacked off and thrown out with his other garbage. He stored the rest of the remains inside picnic coolers and wooden crates, which he kept inside his flat. Following advice which he had allegedly received on 2chan, Takehiro topped the coolers with cat litter to help mask any foul odors. But what his neighbors thought was the smell of faulty drains was actually the pungent stench of death. Takehiro's ninth and final victim was Aiko Tamura, who disappeared on October 23rd. After not hearing from her for several days, her brother became concerned about Aiko's whereabouts. After gaining access to her Twitter account, he discovered the unsettling messages that Takehiro had been sending her. The brother contacted another woman that Takehiro had messaged, one who had met with him in person. This woman agreed to act as bait in a sting operation. Using her Twitter account, they contacted Takehiro and arranged to meet with him at a nearby station. On Halloween night, 2017, the two met and walked back to his apartment. Upon their arrival, undercover officers stormed the residence and demanded to know where Aiko was. Takehiro pointed to one of the small boxes that filled the living space and coldly stated, "She's in there." The coolers and crates were filled with the heads, arms, and legs of Takehiro's 9 victims, with most of their meat scraped off. A combination of DNA testing, CCTV evidence, and phone data helped the investigators uncover the identities of all 9 victims. Takehiro had taken their lives at a rate of more than 1 per week, and he had no intention of stopping. In fact, he had already met with 4 other women who he was working on, including the decoy who had played a role in the sting. For obvious reasons, the media dubbed Takehiro the Twitter killer. In court, Takehiro didn't deny responsibility for the slayings, and stated, "I'm sorry for having killed some of my victims, the ones with whom I spent a lot of time, and I'd like to apologize to their families. But for the others, I don't really feel a deep sense of regret. If I hadn't been caught, I would regret nothing."
Hey, he ain't telling no lies when he just said that end part. The first part was bullshit, in my opinion. I respect some of the victims I killed, but the other ones I don't care nothing about. Motherfucker, you don't care nothing about none of these people. The only thing that you told the truth about was when you said if you wouldn't have got caught, you would have kept doing it. He would have just kept. This is so crazy, y'all. This is so crazy when you really think about it. This man had multiple women's heads in boxes in his freaking house. And he was just gonna keep adding them up if he didn't get caught. How could you, like, that shit, it really like sent something through my heart just thinking about it. He had people's head. I'm finna stop saying that shit for YouTube. Put the little yellow thingy up on this video, man, and I don't even get all the freaking ad revenue from it. But y'all get what I'm saying. Let's go.
In Takehiro's words, he would have continued his spree forever, or at least until he found a woman who would support him financially. His defense tried to spin a different narrative, saying that Takehiro was actually a good Samaritan, one who only wanted to help desperate women pass on with dignity. But Takehiro himself laughed at the absurdity of that story, and admitted, "Not a single one of my victims consented." In response, Judge Naokuni Yano said that Mr. Shirashi had not only taken 9 lives, but had, quote, trampled on the dignity of the dead. And on December 15th, 2020, he sentenced the 30-year-old to death.
Good.
Even though Takehiro is currently behind bars, he is reportedly still looking for a wife, one who he hopes will bring him things from the outside world. "I know many women are irrationally attracted to serial killers," he told an interviewer. "A few have already been in touch." Takehiro better make it a fast courtship though. After all, he may not have much time left to enjoy married life. In Japan, the date of an inmate's execution is kept secret, even from the convicted and their family, and they're only notified on the morning that they're set to perish.
Wow.
As such, Takehiro will wake up every morning, however many he has left, wondering if that might be the day he loses his life. And when he does, it will, fittingly, be at the end of a rope.
That is crazy that he loved ropes growing up. Was him and his homeboy was choking each other in the room, playing, almost about to die. And that's how he really is going to die one day. And I hope that day comes sooner than later. I'm just going to say it, my brothers and sisters. I hope that day comes tomorrow, goddammit. Go on, get rid of him. And another thing I'll point out, it may sound crazy that he looking for a wife, but it is true that I think somebody probably would marry him, because we have seen plenty of stories of these freaking serial killers. They go to prison and they become more of a celebrity than before they was a fucking serial killers. You know what I'm saying? Now that the world knows that they have killed some people, you got some crazy people out there that support them, sending them letters, sending them money, sending them this, sending them that. You know what I'm saying? He may find a wife, but I hope his life is ended before that wife even began to freaking come in his life, y'all. And I think we heard of that one from Mike from that chapter, but the Lazy Man just did a great way telling it in a different way, man, in a different way. But let's get to the last one.
During your adventures on the internet, you may have come across the term frogging. For those of you who haven't, frogging, as described by dictionary.com, is the act of secretly living in another person's home without their knowledge or permission.
Oh, hell no!
It's a concept that gets used a lot in no-sleep stories and creepypastas. But the thing is, frogging is far from a mere urban myth. There have been hundreds of documented cases of unwanted visitors living in someone's loft, hiding inside their walls, or even sleeping under their bed. The term derives from the frog's modus operandi, how they hop from pad to pad, either searching for a place to live or just chasing a sick thrill. Typically, they avoid confrontation, only going so far as to steal the homeowner's food, toiletries, and privacy. But not all frogs are made equal. Some aren't content living in the shadows forever. Some make the leap into even more depraved acts. The year was 2019, and Brittany and James Campbell were a pair of military newlyweds stationed in Hawaii. With orders to stay on Oahu for the next 2 years, they picked out a family home where they could raise their 2 sons in peace, a modest 2-story house located on a safe Honolulu cul-de-sac. In mid-September that same year, the Campbells left for a week's vacation to the US mainland. Despite living in an island paradise, the couple were extremely eager to get away for a while, and not just to visit relatives. Unfortunately, Hawaii wasn't the fairy tale that they hoped it would be. Just a few months prior, they had found their garage in a bad state. Someone had snuck inside, opened up all of their storage boxes, and arranged their contents into strange piles. At first, they believed that they had been robbed, but soon realized that no valuables were missing. A thorough search of the rest of the house turned up no further clues, so the Campbells chalked this incident up to some local youths messing around and did their best to forget about it. But Brittany couldn't help but feel that something was off. On multiple nights in the weeks leading up to their trip, she had been awoken by what she thought was the sound of doors slamming, floorboards creaking, and boxes being rummaged through. Every time she went to investigate the source of the noise, she found nothing, but they happened so frequently that they kept her perpetually on edge. Brittany raised her concerns with her husband James, and though he originally believed that she was just being paranoid, he too recalled several weird occurrences from recent months.
Yeah, I think we done heard of this story before too, y'all. I think this is another freaking deja vu moment, man. And I think this one came from Mr. Ballin. Let's go. Let's refresh our memory on the story.
He had found the front door mysteriously unlocked, personal effects out of place, and the computer's webcam switched on when nobody had been using it. Most worryingly, while home alone one afternoon, James had been playing the piano when he suddenly got a strange feeling. He turned to see the silhouette of a man staring at him through the window, his face obscured by a thin curtain. The figure ran off, and James convinced himself that the man was just a neighbour listening to him play. Still, in combination with all of the other strange happenings, the couple began to feel like they were losing their minds. Thus, they booked their holiday to the mainland. A week away, they thought, would do wonders for their well-being. When the family returned to their home on September 20th, they noticed something suspicious in their front yard. James's bike. Certain that he had left it locked away inside the garage, James told his family to wait in the car while he went inside to investigate. But when he tried to open the front door, he could feel something, or someone, pulling against him on the other side. James managed to pry the door open enough to make a gap. He peered through it, and locked eyes with a man he had never met. One who calmly, yet forcefully stated, "This is not your house."
Can you just imagine that freaking shit, man? You go to your house, try to open the door. You know nobody else should be in here. You know what I'm saying? Nobody should be in this bitch. You pull up in your driveway, walk to your front door and try to open it, and you can tell somebody else is pulling and stopping you from opening it in your freaking, this is your house that they are not allowing you to get in. And then when you look at them, you don't know who they are, and then they tell you this is not your house. Man, that sounds like some movie-ish, man. That sounds like a thriller. Wow.
James managed to force his way into his own home and found that this 20-something-year-old stranger was wearing his clothes. With a sledgehammer in hand, James managed to restrain the intruder while Brittany contacted the authorities. What they later found inside the home was haunting. Nearmost every object in every room had been rearranged, with pots and pans piled in neat stacks, James's musical gear laid out in the living room, and their son's bedroom meticulously cleaned. Knives had been carefully placed atop James and Brittany's bed, laid out like tools on a surgeon's operating table. But the most disturbing discoveries were found on the family's laptop. The frog had left them a video using the webcam. In the footage, he performed a deranged parody of a makeup tutorial. More concerning, however, was a digital diary that the frog had been keeping. One which contained notes about each family member, detailing their movements and private conversations, confirming that the man truly had been living inside their home for several months, watching them. In a separate file, they found an extremely long document titled The Omnivore Trials, a Rehabilitation of Rat-like People. In what can only be described as a deranged manifesto, the frog explained his plan to turn the Campbell family from omnivores into Ezekiels. This included transplanting their hands and removing certain unnecessary organs. Today's trial consisted of trying to use makeup for cosmetic changes. It kind of failed, but I believe there will be progress. It's hard to figure out what to do because I still haven't had a real connection with the consultant. I want to get closer, but I guess we both have a fear of something that we are. I'm easily freaked out by human forms, and they believe I'm a narcissistic human, in a way. I just want them to look perfect. I want them to feel beautiful. I believe that even the way they are is possibly one of the most beautiful creatures I've ever seen. But I'm a weird guy, so I guess that's why.
You guess that's why. Weird is don't even justify. Weird is not even half of what you are, man. You a crazy mother, retarded mother, punk mother, you know what I'm saying? That's what you are. But it's so crazy, man. And I'm remembering it now after hearing what he's saying right here. He was in their house for all those months, almost like he was a scientist and he was watching the family as if they was lab rats, y'all. Like he was studying them and getting ready to actually experiment on them. He was the freaking scientist looking over the lab rats for months and months and how they react to this and do that. Like this man talking about I'm a weird guy. That is the freaking say the least, my guy.
But the trials will be completed. We will all have a base home where we can go if needed, and eventually we'll have other homes and places that we can go to enjoy our lives. The frog used that same laptop to research surgery utensils for sale, and had googled how to perform certain operations. Vials of pills were found inside the living room, and it's believed the frog had gathered these to sedate the family members in preparation for their transformations. A message on James's calendar simply read, "Your rehabilitation starts today. Do as I did. Choose a house. Clean it. Set up all devices." The term Ezekiel's made a little more sense when the authorities arrived to arrest the frog. He was 23-year-old Ezekiel Zayas, and he'd been living in the crawl space above the Campbell's second-floor bathroom. "He wanted to play doctor on us," recalled Brittany. "He wrote about how he could make us into perfect people." Had the Campbell family not gone on vacation when they did, they may well have woken up one night to find themselves in a nightmare scenario.
Yeah.
One that doesn't bear thinking about. After his arrest, Ezekiel faced burglary charges and was subsequently released under supervision. However, he was taken into custody again in 2020, this time for vandalizing a Buddhist temple. While incarcerated, Ezekiel demonstrated his willingness to kill by beating and stomping on the head of his 62-year-old cellmate, Vance Grace.
Wow.
This attack was completely unprovoked, and guards were unable to stop him from slaying Vance due to faulty locks on their cell door. Ezekiel pled guilty to the lesser charge of manslaughter and was sentenced to a total of 40 years. Understandably, the Campbells have since left Hawaii and moved into a new home on the mainland. Though, given what they went through, I wonder if they'll ever really feel at home again.
Hell no. Hell no, I wouldn't even feel at home again. I don't feel at home right now. I need to go check my damn attic and just try to knock on my walls and look or do something, man, to make sure ain't nobody in here. But no, man, I don't have no craziness going on. Like, it was a lot of craziness going on in their house and they couldn't figure out who the freak was doing this stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I can at least feel good about that when I go to work and come back home, if nobody else that I know have been here, then everything gonna be in the same place. You know what I'm saying? But boy, if you just think about it, my brothers and sisters, it do kind of freaking scare you. Like, there is a possibility that somebody can be in your attic or basement right now or in the walls and you don't know it. So hey man, I'm just saying, y'all, I'm just saying. And Lazy Man gave us more details than Mr. Baller gave us as far as like the outcome and stuff, like the prison sentence and stuff. I never knew nothing about the prison sentence, so I just don't remember it at all. But it was just crazy that the Lazy Man told two stories that we have heard before from Mike from that chapter and the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Ballin'. And I think that Lazy Man did a great job telling us both of those stories. Like I said, with this one right here, it's just, I just feel like because this one thing that get on my nerves about what we just heard in this story, y'all. I feel like he should have got more time in prison just for being caught staying in these people's houses about to freaking perform experiments and all that on them. He just got charged for burglary, then got back out, then he went back in prison for another reason, and that's when he ended up killing another man, and that's why he really spending them 40 years in prison. He not spending them 40 years because of what he actually did to this family, staying in their homes, in their walls for months on end. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like he should have just been held accountable for that, period. The second story, man, the second story was the one that we freaking heard from Mike. Let me make sure I get it right. With the what his name was, Hanging Pro, whatever, that Twitter name and that profile picture. I'm like, yeah, we done heard this story before, man. I know I seen it somewhere. And it's just still just freaking as crazy as back then when we first heard it, my brothers and sisters. Like, bro, you freaking, like I said earlier, I don't even know if I should be saying this on YouTube, man. You had these ladies' heads in boxes in your house? What the is going on, man? Seriously. I'm just glad he did get caught when he did, but I wish he would have got caught a lot earlier. But at the same time, because if he would have never got caught, he would have kept doing that. He was going to do that until he got caught. He was going to add to the collection, and I ain't trying to be funny when I say that, but in his mind, that's what he was doing, and he was going to keep on doing it, keep on doing it, keep on doing it. Oh, that's another crazy one. And the way he was trying to take advantage of the women, man. Like he was preying on the weaknesses of women. You know what I'm saying? What they was most vulnerable at. He was trying to act like he's that guy that can help them feel better or get stronger in those vulnerable places. And then they come over his house and he do that to them. And the first one, like I said, the freaking arcade machines, y'all. I never knew arcade machines did that a day in my life, be showing missing people. And it's so sad that all the images of these missing people back then, to this day, we don't know what happened to them other than that one boy who kind of got kidnapped, but he really wasn't, well, he was kidnapped, but he got kidnapped by a family member. You know what I'm saying? Who didn't do no harm to him. It probably had, when I hear something like that, it made me think that was probably like, quick scenario, a baby daddy, baby mama situation where the baby mama claiming that the baby daddy then kidnapped their child. You know what I'm saying? Because he like, man, I'm gonna take my child. You know, I'm gonna spend some time with my child. Well, something like that. I don't know, man. I'm just speculating on that. But it's just crazy, man. I just hope that those other kids way back then, there'll be some grown ass freaking adults by now. I hope they did survive this though. But we'll never know. We'll never know. But I digress, my brothers and sisters. I'm gonna let y'all go now, man. Before y'all leave, just please hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and do all that if you ain't did that yet. And come on back tomorrow for another That Chapter Wednesday. But until then, my friends, remember this. Love, peace, and happiness. Stay safe. Don't stop. Keep going. Yeah.